The ACC has only one unbeaten left in conference play, and as we all predicted, it's Virginia. Coastal Chaos reigns supreme. Let's bring in the squad.
You're talking ball with the ACC Squad. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC Squad.
The ACC is such a crazy football conference that the only team who's unbeaten in conference play actually has a loss to a conference rival, but it was technically a non-conference game. That's how crazy this thing is. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making the Locked On ACC Squad your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. Miami goes down again. They're down to 2 conference losses. We also got Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack coming off a massive victory. They played spoiler to Georgia Tech's undefeated season. And speaking of Georgia Tech, we got Jarvis Davis with us, who is now co-host of the brand new Locked On Georgia Tech show. Clearly, he brought great luck to the Rambling Wreck over the weekend. Show debuts and they lose a game. We got JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils with us. And as we're going to talk on this episode, ACC Hoops is underway. And at the time of this recording, all the ACC teams who have played to this point are 1-0, except Boston College. So Boston College football and basketball have that Spider-Man meme thing going on. We're going to talk about an incredible rant by Dabo Swinney, head coach of the Clemson football team, about holding officials accountable. But let's talk some ACC football. And Jarvis, I'm going to let you buy the first round, my friend. A tough loss for Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech is still very much in the ACC championship game picture after suffering their first loss of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that is perfect timing, because when you talk about going into a bye week, and you have a lot of things to figure out on the defensive side of football, because they made CJ Bailey look like a doggone #1 overall pick. Like I was like, hey, the Jets better get ready, because CJ Bailey can be that guy if he wants to, try to forego, another year of college football and try to get into the NFL, because they just made him look like an all-American type guy, because he was just sitting back there slicing the defense up left and right. And, the one thing that, I've talked about on the show, pretty often is the fact that there was a lot of, like, Blake Gideon, defensive coordinator. I didn't like the game plan going into the game because of just how the defense was and how they was just playing a lot of off coverage. And it was just so many things that I was just like, okay, I understand that your corners are out. You got a couple corners out, some of your best guys out, but like, you can't go into a game like that on the road where a team that you're quote unquote supposed to beat, like, you can't come in with that type of game plan in a game like that, because you are supposed to win that bad boy. And your offense put up 36 points. That's kind of where they're averaging, for the year. So, as one of the top 5 scoring teams in the conference. So it's just that defense just did not come to play. And shout out to NC State for being able to take advantage of it.
Well, I don't think that y'all made CJ Bailey look like a #1 overall pick kind of guy. That's what he is. That's what he is.
That's
when
future Miami quarterback CJ Bailey.
Hey, watch him out, Dono. Watch him out.
I'm not arguing against that right now. I promise you I'm not arguing against that.
I still got an appointment down in Coral Gables with Mario, the way he was talking to me at ACC Media Days, just to piss down his leg later. But we'll get to him later.
Yeah, we will.
I've said this all year about CJ Bailey. When he's at his best, there's not 15 other guys in the country that can do what he does. The problem is when he's at his worst, there are not 15 other guys that will make some of the bad decisions that he makes. Y'all just happen to get the good CJ Bailey experience. But even beyond that, I think the most important part is Georgia Tech was unprepared to be physical and stop the run, which Grayson so expertly and eloquently pointed out all throughout our episode last week, saying, hey, there is a weakness here. They are malleable. And we're thinking Hollywood Smothers is going to carry the mail because he's one of the top 5 rushers in the country. He's out. And so we got Duke Scott in there, and he goes off for 200 total yards and a couple tutties. I mean, this game, to me, it's what Grayson and I talked about all offseason, how the offense was going to have to carry this team. We knew you're not stopping Georgia Tech outright. We knew that wasn't going to happen. That's,
sure.
Peyton Wilson ain't walking through that door, with all due respect. Mario Williams ain't walking through that door. Bradley Chubb and company, they gone. They ain't got no eligibility left. So the goal for this defense should be just hang on. Just hold on to the rope, and the offense light it up. And that's what we saw. It looked like a classic Big 12 game back when Pat Mahomes and Baker Mayfield was going at it. You were seeing 54-46 type of stuff.
This game was insane. Kenton was upstairs. I was in the crowd, so we had both angles covered. As you might hear, my voice a little raspy because I was letting some Georgia Tech fans know what we like to do with the chains on the first down. But this game, and I'm not on here to beat my chest about it, it went exactly how I thought that it would. Coming into this game, I knew that Georgia Tech's run defense was, to Kenton's point, a little malleable. Would you believe if Georgia Tech had, I think the 11th or 12th run defense in the ACC? You wouldn't know that based on the record, but coming into this game, even if it was Hollywood or Duke Scott, I knew we were going to have a chance. And then kind of like the, I guess if you want to call it like the Fugazi part of this, NC State was due for a win like this. Georgia Tech was due for a loss like this. They've been on the road a couple times, played with fire a couple times, but able to escape. I had this feeling it was time for something to go right for State, something to go wrong for Georgia Tech. NC State, up until this point of the season, they had not played a complete full quarter effort one single time in 8 games. And I knew that if they could find a way to put it together for 60 minutes, they can play with anyone in the country. It just so happened to be Georgia Tech on Saturday night. So apologies to the rest of the ACC. We shook up the race even more, which we're about to talk about, but unbelievable win for Dave Dorn and the Wolfpack.
Well, and let me let J.J. Jackson get in a word because what an epic showdown. You talk about offense and points being scored. 46-45, JJ, and a late 2-point conversion allowed Duke to get that outright victory over Clemson. A victory Kenton and I were predicting on Locked On ACC would happen. I thought it would be a little bit easier than it was, but we said wrong team favored with Clemson being the favorite. Blue Devils got it done.
Yeah, a long time coming in 45 years since Duke football was able to go on the road and win in Death Valley against Clemson. It had been a really long period since Duke had won it all against the Tigers. Riley Leonard was able to get a win to snap that streak in Durham a few seasons ago, but that was really exciting to see Duke be able to get a win this past weekend. The offense has been incredible all season long. There really has not been a single team in the country that has slowed down this Duke offense other than Duke themselves not taking care of the football in certain games throughout the course of the year. What a statement it was for Duke. I was a little concerned by the defensive effort. Duke's really starting to get banged up a little bit health-wise there on the defensive end, but hopefully they've got still a big push coming here down the stretch because as we're getting into, man, it is insane to be an ACC football fan right now with the number of different teams that still have a chance.
Yeah, and there was a pivotal game on Saturday in Dallas, Texas, where Miami effectively eliminated themselves from ACC championship game from the standings, and SMU got themselves right back into it because SMU only has one conference loss, so they will have an opportunity to get in the ACC championship for the second straight game. And JJ, when you talk about Duke's offense being their own worst enemy, Miami's worst enemy is the man in the mirror. And listen, SMU had to go out there and make fewer mistakes. I didn't think either team looked particularly good. I mean, there were a few big plays for SMU, a few big plays for Miami, but Miami cannot fix their issues. I mean, all season long, too many penalties, too many miscues, too much predictability on offense. They go out there, they commit 12 penalties for 96 yards. They go out there, they have a couple of interceptions. First of those was not Carson Beck's fault, was off the hands, bobbled a tip for an interception by receiver JoJo Trader. The second of those, Beck, threw it in overtime, which obviously was very, very costly. But my big issue with Miami, guys, is this complete inability to fix their self-inflicted wounds, which is now a story that goes back even to last season and beyond. And then the other part of it is, I talked about this a lot with Kenton this week on Locked On ACC. The offensive philosophy, they treat every single drive in every single quarter as if it's late first quarter and you're up 7 points. Like, that's how they treat every single drive. And for a team that is as talented as the Miami Hurricanes are, to try to play ball control, clock control, shorten the game and shorten the margins, guess what? When you're going up against less talented teams and you're intentionally shortening the game and shortening the amount of possessions, you are going out of your way to keep less talented teams in these games. It's the definition of insanity, guys, doing the same things over and over and over and expecting a different result. I'm kind of tired of talking about it, but I'm still here.
Dono, but look who you have at the quarterback position, Carson Beck. He sees ghosts, baby. This is who Carson is. He played for a team the red and black team up the road. I no longer say their names out loud, and I'm definitely not going to say their name on the ACC Squad show. That team in the red and black, I'm very familiar with his game, sir. The Shaq meme is real, So when you think about who Carson Beck is, because he can't play his way out of it. Once he starts seeing ghosts, it's over. he can't play his way out of it. Coming into his year before, the year when he was at Georgia before he transferred to Miami, I was talking about him being one of those guys. I'm talking about a top 5 pick. The way he played the year prior, and the year right before, the year before he left that school down there, he was one of those prospects. But he just could not figure out a way. It was so many things going on within the team and his girlfriend, TikTok famous and all this stuff, and driving the Lamborghini trucks and all that stuff, man. It was just too much going on. And he can't just figure out a way to get focused. And now you're starting to see it. It's starting to come out. Who he really is starting to come out. And I think that, you're going to have to kind of come to grips with that, Alex. You know what I'm saying?
I'm at grips. I'm fully gripping.
Jarvis, you're looking too zoomed in. You got to take it out from the microscope. You got to get a bird's eye view of this thing, okay? Carson Beck is not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem, because last year they had the number 1 overall pick. Did it work out for him either? What's the common denominator that has been there for Miami all along? Mario Manuel Cristobal. It's him. It is him. I'm not willing to say he needs to be fired, but he needs to change. Like Donald
they can't fire him. He's got a $61 million buyout. But the thing I will be fair to Mario and say this thing has been like this for 20 years with Miami, and he's been the coach for 4 seasons. So this is not a problem he created, but it's a problem he is yet to be able to fix.
I agree, but my thing is the stuff that you're talking about as their problem in terms of this iteration and last year's iteration of the team, those are Mario Cristobal exclusive things. Even if you go back 3 years ago, he keeps losing in ways that he's lost before. You lost to Georgia Tech because you were running the ball when you had no damn business. You should have took a knee, and you lose that game. You lose last year because all of a sudden you forget, well, wait a minute now. We're up a lot of points against Georgia Tech, but scoring is still an option. We can still do what we need to do. We don't have to shut down the offense and go uber conservative in order to win this football game. And then you do things like that again this year where, like you said, Dono, you treat every possession like you're trying to squeeze the life out the game. You've got better players. You don't have to do that. Vanderbilt has to do that. They do not have the talent in comparison to their opponents on average. They just don't. You do. You got more time to play. Hey, let's speed it up. We got a big first down, get some tempo going. He refuses to do it. So I'm not saying he needs to be fired, but he needs to change.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we can get more into this on the other side. I want us to predict who's going to square off in the ACC championship game, and I want to break down the absolute fire that Dabo Swinney has been spitting. You want to keep it locked right here. It's the Locked On ACC Squad, and we're only getting started. Folks, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts for a project, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join their free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you so much for making the ACC Squad your first listen. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone host Locked On Wolfpack. Jarvis Davis co-hosts the all-new Locked On Georgia Tech. And JJ Jackson hosts Locked On Blue Devils, available free. And I host Locked On Canes, I should mention. We're all available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So, guys, Virginia, I mean, they have been sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. They've been both. They have been good and they have been lucky throughout the season. The Virginia Cavaliers are still technically undefeated in conference. Their remaining schedule, home against Wake Forest, a game they probably should win, but Wake has been tricky at times. On the road at Duke, that's a game they'll probably be an underdog in, but even if they lose that game, they're still in great position. And then home against Virginia Tech to wrap up the season is a game that they probably should win. Georgia Tech's remaining conference schedule, they only have 2 conference games left. At Boston College, should be an easy win, and versus Pittsburgh at home, that could be tricky. Their final game is at Georgia, so they have just 2 conference games left. Pittsburgh's remaining conference schedule, they're still in the hunt. They're home against Notre Dame, non-conference game. They're at Georgia Tech and then home against Miami. 2 really tough games. I mean, with Pitt, you never know. They could go 2-0, they could go 1-1, they could go 0-2 in those final 2 conference games. I think everything is on the table there. The Louisville Cardinals play home against Cal, probably a win. Home against Clemson, should be a win. At SMU, could be a toss-up, and then their final game at Kentucky, non-conference. So Louisville very much alive. SMU found new life in that upset win against Miami. Their remaining conference games at Boston College shouldn't be too tough. Home against Louisville, very tough. And at Cal could be tricky, especially if they make that a late-night game. So you think about all those teams, fellas, that have either 0 or 1 conference losses. I'll let anyone buy the first round on this one. What are the 2 teams that are going to be in Charlotte in early December?
This feels like we're in bizarro world, and I really, really hate to say this, but Virginia's definitely going to be there. And I think they're going to be met there by the Louisville Cardinals. I think that the light is shining on Brown. I think the light is shining on Brown. I think it's his time to go ahead and potentially get one done here. Louisville, I'm sorry. We know how easy the rest of the schedule is for Virginia. We know that. You're playing a Virginia Tech team that is without a coach. You're playing a Wake Forest team that I told everybody when SMU had them on CW stands for Carolinian wins. Whenever you get a school from Carolina, you playing them on the CW, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You better, get to praying. But you look at that team and, first year with Dickert, they've been up and down. They go as far as Robbie Ashford takes them. How far does he take you? You're looking at a very good situation there for them. But Louisville, I think they've proven they can win enough games down the stretch. There's a reason that they've been to multiple ACC championships there's a reason they went to a ACC championship under Brown. I don't think they've been to multiple yet. I think this is
2 years ago they went to one.
Yeah, so they get to their second this year because, again, I think that they finish out this schedule in a very meaningful way. The only game that I'm watching for there, Clemson, because Clemson owes them some get back. Clemson owes them because they almost kept Clemson out. If it wasn't for a specific team that also wears orange, choking it away up in the Carrier Dome. But that's neither here nor there. So the reality is, I think those are 2 teams.
By the way, I think I forgot to shout out Duke. Duke is also in that mix, by the way, JJ.
Yeah, no, I love the position that Duke is in, truthfully. And like you said, I do believe Duke will be favored going into that home game against Virginia. This offense is awesome. Jarin Mensah is the quarterback that not enough people are talking about. And if they're talking about it, I'm not listening in the right places when I look beyond the Duke circles there. Because this guy is the real deal. He's worth every single penny and dollar and everything that Duke did to get him on campus ahead of the new season. Just the frustrating loss that Duke had earlier in the year against Georgia Tech and against some of the early season losses that they had in non-conference still sting in this moment. I like SMU, though. I think that is such a big, important win for them to have gotten this past week against Miami. This is an SMU team that's got college football playoff experience from a year ago. Rhett Lashley just signs the new extension. There are so many teams in America that would love to bring their guy to take over their program. I think SMU is one of those teams to be on the lookout for. And then Georgia Tech as well. We'll see how they bounce back. But what they've been able to do all season with Haynes King, I think, has been really impressive.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech. Yeah, I think Georgia Tech is going to finish this, figure this thing out, because I really believe in Brent Key and what he's doing. I don't think he's going to let this thing linger, because something stinks. Especially when you go into a bye week, you get time to kind of soak in that stench. And I think they're going to get this thing figured out, because that's the way this team is built, who he is as a coach, who, like JJ mentioned, Haynes King is built exactly just like Brent Key. You would think he's just a tough dude. Tech tough is the term that people have been throwing around a lot lately. So I think they're going to get this thing figured out, and I think they'll probably end up facing a team like Virginia, because I know it's that a road game against Duke is going to be very tough, but I think they'll figure out a way to get that one going, because I think Tony Elliott is doing something special up there in Virginia. He's finally figured it out. And because, money helps. Money helps. And when you put money into your program, that kind of helps you play better football, for sure, for some strange reason.
So one of my locks is Virginia, because I don't see them losing twice to put themselves in trouble. No. Crazy, this is the world we live in, but I think Virginia is going to play in the ACC championship game. And JJ beat me to the punch. I think the other team is going to be SMU. I think SMU has the easiest remaining schedule, with all due respect to Louisville. They have to play Boston College. Again, should be a win. They play Cal, should be a win. They play Louisville, but it's at home in Dallas. That's about as favorable of a schedule as you can ask for. I think SMU may get this done also, because I think Pitt is going to beat Georgia Tech and then remove Georgia Tech from the race, sliding SMU up in there. That's how I see this going down. It's so crazy that the ACC essentially has like the key to the ultimate CFP chaos this year. It's going to be an exhilarating final 3 weeks.
And it's like, I know Virginia is a tremendous Cinderella story, especially with all the Tony Elliott's been through there, and being on the hot seat and the tragedy a couple of years ago. And I think, JJ mentioned it, that he's right, that they're basically a lock to get in at this point. So I think the matchup we will see is Virginia versus Georgia Tech. I lean to Georgia Tech. But when it comes to just getting the two best football teams on the field, the matchup I would like to see, I believe Georgia Tech and Louisville, in my humble opinion, are the two best teams in the conference. That's the matchup I would like to see, but I am expecting to see Virginia against Georgia Tech. It's funny, guys, because we rewind a few months, and the team that was at the top of everybody's ballot to get to the ACC championship this year again and win it again were the Clemson Tigers. And they've had a rough go of it, but I will say, despite the fact that his team is having a poor season on the field, I've been fist pumping for Dabo Swinney and what he's saying off the field. So there was a contentious, controversial pass interference call that went against his team in the Duke game that was at least partially decisive in the outcome of that game. And Dabo was pissed. And listen, this is not, a lot of people think the ACC refs are like corrupt against this team. I don't think it's corruption. I just think it's incompetence. Like, I think there has been an incompetence problem for decades with ACC officiating. And Dabo Swinney, he talked about that PI call, said it was one of the worst calls he's ever seen. He ranted about it. He got fined $10,000 by the conference. Like, the conference has no problem holding coaches accountable when they complain about officiating, but do they hold the officials accountable? So Dabo Swinney says this. In the meantime, he says, we got gambling issues going on, people getting suspended, all that kind of stuff, right? Yep. I mean, refs are people too, he said. It ain't just coaches and players. And if they're part of the game, then by God, they ought to be a part of the game, and they ought to be a part of the accountability, and they ought to be part of the consequences, not just behind some shadowy curtain. Like, no, they ought to have to answer for it. And I agree. And I know officiating is a really tough job, fellas, but I feel accountability is very important. If you're going to get officiating better, I think they need to be held accountable for their mistakes, and they almost never do.
Dabo Swinney said, call the hotline. Them boys gambling. He said, call the hotline. Check out these ACC officials' FanDuel accounts.
1-800 admit it.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not a guy who often brings the officials into things. However, we can point to multiple games that had very tangible impacts on the ACC race at large that have been drastically impacted by a call or no call in a very decisive moment in the game that was very blatant one way or the other. And so I get where Dabo's coming from. And, Dono and I talked about this earlier. There needs to be more transparency if officials are being reprimanded, if they are being downgraded, if they are getting any type of penalty or recompense for getting things wrong. Because, I mean, how many times against NC State, you talk about the jump off sides, not offsides against Duke, that cost them. Georgia Tech, you talk about the fact that they wouldn't even be undefeated. It wouldn't have been a field storming situation potentially if they called that offsides against Wake Forest. And now you get this situation of the pass interference with Duke and a lot of other plays as well that have happened in very, very pivotal moments that are like, well, what's happening? You get the call wrong, and then we just all move on and say, well, can't blame the officials. The job is to remove the officials. Well, sure. In a perfect world, if you're playing football 25 or 26 now, you're beating them by 40 and it doesn't matter. Real life don't work like that, unfortunately. No. So, it's a really tough situation to not see that transparency and that kind of comeuppance for getting it wrong for the ACC officials.
I can't believe I'm about to say this because Dabo Swinney has always gave me snake oil salesman vibes. Me too. You talk one way, but behind closed doors, you might be a little different. So for me, but I agree with him on this one because I look at the NIL as a consequence of people basically tucking their tails between their legs and not knowing that and acting like they don't know that players were getting paid way long before this whole NIL situation came about. Like I'm sure Kenton still probably got a couple of dollars from, when he was recruited at NC State. You know what I'm saying? So
what did he say FB for?
The statute of limitations has not passed. You got to keep that quiet.
The statute of limitations is done, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can admit it, bro. Like, come on.
I have received no improper benefits from North Carolina State University or any other university. There is no reason I was committed to the University of Illinois besides the fact that my former teammate Kenny Nelson was there. Love you, Kenny. But that's it.
but like it's time to start telling the truth. Just like the NIL came to light, start paying the players above board. Yeah, so everybody can know it, can let it be out there so everything can be above board. Same thing goes for these doggone referees, man. It's time to stop saving these cats. Why are they being saved? These probably are part-time employees. They call these folks out, man. They get paid a good amount of money. So they need to be held accountable just like these coaches are and just like these players are right now. Because these cats, if you aren't playing and living up to these things, man, these cats are figuring out a way to snatch these little NIL deals from you. And next thing you know, these guys jumping in the portal and trying to go get paid somewhere else. So yeah, everybody's being held accountable now. So it's time for the referees to be held accountable.
And you think this is a different conference, but I mean, Auburn has been hosed by so many calls this year, and Hugh Freeze got fired. Like, if one of those calls goes his way, he might still have a job.
Well, I'll take it one step further. There was an official in the SEC that was permanently suspended for the rest of the season because of this. So perhaps Dabo is, I guess, indirectly calling out that maybe it does mean more in the SEC. They're willing to, I guess, reframe how their officials will be judged and officiated in-house there. Why can't the ACC do this as well? I think when you're looking at accountability, if you see the SEC doing it, I'm sure the Big Ten won't be far behind. The ACC needs to meet them at the top as well. The officials should be held accountable for poor performance. It's absolutely true.
Let me zag for a moment. Okay, let me zag for a moment in this conversation because I do want it to be pointed out that while public accountability might be lacking here, where the referee in question we've talked about Ken Williamson at the SEC level and some of the calls that didn't go Auburn's way. What the rest of the conferences are doing, though, guys, let's not forget, is crediting the ACC with the reviews that are taking place. And everybody else in America, they
awesome.
Want to now do this. Like, wow, this is incredible that we are seeing this look inside the officiating hub.
I have a strong take on that because hold on. I watch these televised reviews every week. I just think it's such a dog and pony show because, first of all, transparency is great, but transparency and accountability are not the same thing. And
Sure.
when I watch
Yeah.
these ACC reviews on TV, like I feel like they're reading off a script. Like it feels like a bad episode of the Kardashians, like where they
Well, I
already
didn't see that
they
angle.
like I don't know, man. It's like I'm glad they do it, but it's not like make these referees do a press conference after the game. Like that's the sort of thing that I want.
That's fair.
And I'll
fair.
say this: the rest of the conference is trying to copy us in that regard. That's like your old lady doing one thing right, but she doing everything else wrong, right? Like everybody loves that she lets you open the doors and hold your hand.
Doing wrong,
but
KG.
she hit you upside the head with the pen every time you get home, and you leave your shoes at the door or something. Like, oh, wait a minute, now we got some problems that go beyond just this one thing. So I do agree, JJ, that is a good thing that the ACC is doing. But there's a lot of other stuff over here.
Yeah.
That needs to be cleaned up.
Stop getting the head with the pen, please. I would love that because that's what the ACC and these officials are doing in this.
Yeah, because like I've seen some of these televised reviews where it's like they still clearly get it wrong, but it's like okay, because they televised a bad review, we should applaud them. Like I don't know, man. Like, I'm glad they do it, but I
Can't
don't
use
know.
the toothbrush to sweep up the auditorium.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Duke did end up on the right side of two of those very interesting no calls. So very interesting to see who's defending the refs and zagging here. Because I may want to zag too if I had 2 extra wins because the officials say, oh, no, he just timed the snap perfectly.
I'm a Coach K lifer for a reason, Kitten Gibbs. I learned from the man.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, when we come back, speaking of Coach K, I know he's no longer in coaching, but ACC hoops are now with us, which is obviously an exciting thing. Who could be a dark horse to get into that ACC championship game and be the hot team and maybe win the conference? You want to keep it right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of the Locked On ACC Squad. Oh, we're certainly not done yet with FanDuel. Guys, the NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I have so much fun with this, guys. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so at the time of recording this, all of the teams who have played, all the teams represented here in the ACC who have played, Duke has not played yet at the time of recording. You'd imagine they're going to start 1-0. All of us are 1-0. I know our shout out to our guy AJ Black, who's not with us tonight. His team is 0-1, Boston College. Outside of that, everybody else is 1-0 so far. But I saw when I was doing that tease, I saw Grayson Boone pointing to that NC State Wolfpack logo, and yeah, man, I know Duke are favorites in the conference, rightfully so. But if I'm looking at a dark horse team, the team coached by Will Wade is probably the one I think who's going to be, if they're even a dark horse, because a lot of people are talking about him, Grayson.
Goodness gracious, what a debut performance on Monday night in Raleigh. 114 points. If they really wanted to, I think they could have touched like 130. They had 100 with 7 minutes left to play. They tied a program record, 19 made three-pointers. You had 7 different players in double digits. Goodness gracious. We knew that this roster would be talented. We knew the coaching staff would be revamped. We knew the fan base would be fired up about it. We did not expect even as good of a night as we had last night.
Hey, listen, when you talk about Wolfpack basketball, all they need is a head coach by the name of Frank. That's what you need every time. The men's side, we got Frank William Wade, and on the women's side, we got Frank Wesley Moore. By the way, the only ACC coach with a top 10 win so far. Shout out to Wes Moore and the Wolfpack ladies team. This is what Wolfpack Nation has been waiting for. And if you're talking about a dark horse candidate to win the ACC, I don't even think it's fair to include NC State in that conversation. Right. Because so many people have talked about who we are, what we are. And this win did nothing but confirm that, because this was belt to behind from tip-off. This didn't look like a competitive basketball game. People looked at the exhibition and gave Will Wade lots of heat. Oh, that South Carolina team is terrible. Oh, they shouldn't have been close. He said, here, damn, you want it? Here you go. You want dominance? I give you dominance. And ran all roughshod all over the North Carolina Central Eagles. So, I look at this team and I say they're doing fantastic things. But let's be honest now. Them Boozer twins, Shire and company, there's something to be messed with. There's something that you're gonna have to come in with your big boy britches if you're gonna beat them. So while this is a team that is looking great right now, I'm still excited to see how they look later on down the line.
Anybody else? JJ, you have a shout out for a dark horse team and your take, preseason for you on Duke.
Yeah, one of the great opportunities to show some love to my brethren in Raleigh, because I do think that NC State is going to be a really dominant team throughout the course of the season. I think they're going to be really impressive with the roster that Will Wade was able to be put together. I still, Donna, love the Jay Lucas hire there in Miami, and all of a sudden, it's not this season, but we're already seeing major wins for Miami basketball once again on the recruiting trail from Jay Lucas, who proves to be one of the top recruiters.
And thank you for sharing Shelton Henderson with us, by the way, former Duke commit.
Another great debut for him to open up the season. And here we are not talking about the longest tenured head coach in the league at this point in Brad Brownell and Clemson, who just year after year finds a way to put them back in the NCAA tournament. I think Clemson deserves a little bit more love as well as a potential kind of dark horse when it all comes.
Well, Jarvis, I'll give you the last word.
As far as for me, like, I'm looking at Duke at the top of this bad boy. I mean, like you mentioned, you talk about the Boozer twins and all those guys. Like, it's really their conference to essentially lose. As far as Georgia Tech goes, I mean, they got a couple freshmen, Muhammad Sila, Damon Stoudemire trying to figure it out. He had a Biden Dongo was out in the opener, and that game was a little bit too close for comfort. So, this is going to be one of those years where you're just going to have to figure it out and see what type of players you have and take it game by game and start throwing all those coaching cliches as we go through the season. But I think that Georgia Tech is big. Like, they have some guys that, they have a lot of size on the squad. But as far as competing for the ACC conference, I don't see it.
You said America's sleeping on them, and rightfully so. Hit the snooze button.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Yeah. Don't wake up.
I hit the actual snooze button like 5 times this morning, man. Well, I appreciate, JJ shouting out, my Miami Hurricanes. I think they got a nice team. I think they can finish top half in the ACC. It's a completely new roster, and I love the Jay Lucas hire, former top assistant at Duke. It is his first year as a head coach, so I think there could be a little bit of a learning curve there. But I think Miami can have a nice season, not necessarily penciling them in as an ACC contender just yet. But it's going to be fun watching these games unfold for the rest of the week. And then, man, once conference play starts, giddy up. Huge thank you again, and a special shout-out again to Jarvis Davis, who, alongside Caleb Johnson, his co-host, just launched Locked On Georgia Tech, which long overdue. And Jarvis, I'm glad you and your co-host are doing this because the Yellow Jackets deserve that type of coverage that only Locked On can provide. So shout out to Jarvis. Make sure you check out Locked On Georgia Tech. Make sure you check me out on Locked On Canes and Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs co-hosts Locked On ACC with me. He co-hosts Locked On Wolfpack with Grayson Boone down below, and JJ Jackson on Locked On Blue Devils. We will talk to everybody again next time on another episode of the ACC Squad. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.